Unfailing God, you go before me. My every breath is held in your grace.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us in our series, Worship Leading for Small Churches. My name's AJ. I am the Assistant Divisional Music Director for the Salvation Army in North and South Carolina, and I am joined by members of Transmission. On my right, I have Josh Powell. He is the Contemporary Music Specialist for the Southern Territory of the Salvation Army. He creates resources for training worship teams. He is a music producer and a songwriter. Am I missing anything, Josh?
I think that's it.
All right. Over here on my left, I have Rachel Wiley. She is the Assistant Divisional Music Director of the Salvation Army in Georgia. She specializes in vocal performance, choral music, contemporary worship as well. And you are a songwriter as well. Actually, the song that you just heard us play is written by Rachel Wiley. Did I miss anything there?
I think you covered it.
All right. Today we're going to be talking about choosing songs for small or beginner teams. So, what's the first thing that you think of when choosing a song? Choosing songs for leading worship?
Yeah, I think choosing songs is, for me, it's a puzzle. Like, I spend probably the majority of my worship leading prep in actually choosing songs. Because I think the songs that we sing are, this is what we're actually saying to God as a body, and we're saying to each other. So I think it's important that we choose the songs that we sing intentionally, right? So that it puts us in the right place for worship. So for me, I like to think about what is it that we're actually trying to say, right? I've heard that there's this idea of narrative flow with worship, and like if you look at a lot of the examples of what worship looked like in the Old Testament, you'll see this as well. And even the way that Jesus teaches us to pray, like there's this kind of flow to how we worship God. And I think this kind of gets us to the place where we can sing songs of gathering, like, right? We can sing songs of us coming together. We can sing songs of testimony, right? Songs telling about what God has done in our lives. We can sing songs proclaiming God's character or his attributes. We can sing songs of petition, where we're asking God to do something for us. And then we sing songs that are response, like this is how I'm going to respond to this. So I think, and obviously not everybody's going to have enough time in their set to sing that many songs, but the songs that we can choose can kind of follow this narrative flow where we kind of get our people into this idea of getting from an us perspective to a vertical perspective as well. I don't know. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, well, I think that was a great answer. First of all, you covered a good bit of what I was probably going to say. So I'll go more of the practical side maybe, or how it comes into practice. I typically lean theme-based first. So if there's a series, like at our church right now, we're big into series. So if there's something that we want to have continuing through a couple weeks, probably sitting down and looking at what songs can fit to that. Or if the pastor comes and asks for a specific theme, pulling, okay, what songs fit into that? And then from there, you can go into what is our team capable of? What can we actually use? But theme is usually a place that I like to start.
Yeah, and one thing that I always like to do is what message does the congregation need to hear?
Yeah.
You're right there with your people. These are the people that you're leading in worship. What songs do they really need to hear? Going into beginner praise teams, because both of you guys have taught some beginners coming up, as well as some very very skilled and talented groups. But what's your process in choosing songs for beginner praise teams?
I like to start simple.
Yeah.
So things that have just a few chords that are very repetitive. Typically your chords that you learn first, your C's, your G's, things that are quickly grasped. And I like to choose things that are often heard, whether it's the radio or through our congregation. Maybe it's a song that we've done for the last couple weeks, something that they know what it sounds like and can easily pick it up.
Yeah, I think for me, I really consider two things when, especially with a younger group. One is familiarity, because I think we sometimes get into the trap of trying to choose songs based on what we like listening to, and those songs can be powerful, but if our congregation doesn't really know it, and if our team doesn't know it well, we're not going to be able to reproduce it well. So I think familiarity is a key point there, and that's not to say that you can't ever introduce new songs, but I think especially for a younger group, the more familiar they are with the song, the easier they're going to be able to reproduce it. And I think for me, the second thing is like it's in that same ballpark, but it's scalability of the song, the reproducibility of the song. There's a lot of great songs out there that have really high production value or production quality. It doesn't always mean that it scales down to the beginner acoustic type worship teams. So can the song be scaled down? And that's the second thing I think of when I'm trying to choose a song for a younger worship team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then within that, of course, you want to better your team. You want to help them become better at their craft, become better as a group, but also become better individuals, and then working up songs that are out of their range. It's the whole put something in front of you that challenges you, so you can become better. Things like that.
Yeah, because I think like if you always only put easy songs in front of a beginner team, it's not going to encourage them to stretch themselves. So yeah, you do have to put stuff in front of them that is going to encourage them and excite them to keep working at their craft. So yeah, that's a good point.
But also with that, making sure that they are ready.
Yeah.
And not, hey, we're gonna do this Sunday.
Yeah.
In 2 days, we're gonna have to do this song.
Yeah,
That's out of the reach.
Those kind of things take time. Like you've got to and we'll talk about rehearsal later. But you got to make sure you have enough rehearsal time to work that up. But those kind of things, like those really exciting songs for them, gives them something to bite into and to work toward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you take congregation into consideration? Like we mentioned it before. Really knowing your people, what do they need to hear? How do you take, when choosing songs, how do you take the congregation into consideration for what they need to hear?
I think as worship leaders, we have a responsibility to know the heart of God and be close to the heart of God, but also know the heart of our congregation.
Yeah.
Which requires relationship building.
Yes.
And that takes time. But knowing what it is that your congregation either needs to hear or to sing or needs sung over them, and whether that's as a full church body or maybe there's a group of people that are either walking through something or have, I think it's being really in tune with that on the spiritual side of things. And then that helps in knowing what really do they need to hear on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night or whatever it might be. And then so just praying over that. That comes with discernment and taking time with the Lord to really know, what do you have for our church right now in this season? What's that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, like the worship is a conversation, right? It's a conversation between a worshiper and the one that they are worshiping. So for us, it's a conversation between us and God communing with us as well. And personal worship is it is important, but when we come together corporately, we want everyone to engage in this conversation with God. So I think familiarity again is a big part of this. If the congregation largely does not know the song, they don't really know what it is they're saying to God in the conversation. So they typically they'll fall away and they'll just be an observer. We don't want to encourage our congregation to be observers in worship. We want them to participate in worship. So again, I think familiarity is one of the things that I take into consideration with my congregation. Again, it's not to say you shouldn't do new songs, because I think it's also important to expand our worship vocabulary, but within reason. So for me, familiarity is the first. The second for me is it singable? right? Because there's a lot of songs out there that sound really killer, but the melodies and the rhythms, within the songs, they're not necessarily congregation friendly.
Yeah.
And I've found that if a song is unobtainable for the majority of our congregation, they're not going to go for it. They're just going to step back because they feel awkward. Like, I can't sing those high notes. I can't do those jumps. I don't know this rhythm, so it makes them feel uncomfortable. They're not going to engage, and we want them to engage with it. Yeah.
One thing that I always like to say is congregation participation is more important than the band's enjoyment.
Yeah, 100%.
Us as worship leaders, which is not just the person singing, it's the drummer who is coming in, swelling on the chorus. That they're a worship leader as well. Take the congregation into consideration with the songs that they need to hear over the ones that, I heard on the radio. Let's go ahead and do that, because that might not be what your congregation needs to hear.
Yeah.
And then it's also like genre-wise. Genre is sometimes gospel music works with some congregations. Sometimes it won't.
Yeah.
Sometimes old music, old hymns work great with some churches, some congregations. Sometimes some of the newer stuff works best with some of the congregations. So adding that in there also. Let's talk about a little bit deeper into that. What would you consider a congregation worship song versus just a Christian radio song?
That's a good question. Like, sometimes there's not a difference. Like, a song that is encouraging, that encourages our people to, commune with God. I think it has a place in worship. But then I think there are songs that are written for our enjoyment, not necessarily for our worship or for us to use in worship.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, because I think we need songs that we enjoy listening to that's going to put us in a frame of mind that is positive, encouraging, to use the K-Love expression, right? So yeah, I think there is a difference sometimes between a Christian song and a worship song. A worship song being that which can lead you into a conversation with God.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough question to give maybe just a clear answer on. There are, like Josh is saying, there are some songs on the radio that just do not translate into a congregational setting, whether it be that they are super specific, they're coming from a single person's point of view, and maybe it doesn't allow for corporate inclusion, or sometimes it goes back to, Josh said earlier, singability. There are some of them that just, the soloist is running up and down, which is a great talent for them to have, but if your congregation can't do that and can't follow with that, then it does lead to more of them sitting and taking in, which I do think there is a place for, and that's typically when we use those songs for maybe a special or a time of commitment or something like that. But singability really goes for me. If I'm in the congregation and I think I would have to be a Grammy artist to be able to join in on that, then it probably isn't the best fit for my congregation.
And that's a perfect segue into the next thing. Like, we've talked about complicated melodies. What would be a case to where you wouldn't choose a specific song?
I think, again, like I said earlier, like I think we need to be intentional in everything that we do with song selection, because again, we're putting words in our congregation's mouths to use in worship. So we have a really great responsibility to make sure that the words that we're putting in people's mouths are biblically accurate, that they're theologically sound, that they're actually saying something that means something to them and to God. So I think, we're definitely choosing songs based on, doctrine and theology and biblical accuracy. Because there are some songs out there that you can't use because of those reasons. Yeah,
it could be a great song.
Yeah.
Could be really moving, could be really powerful, but if it's the wrong message, then
so for those reasons, that would be a reason for me not to choose a particular song.
Yeah. if I can give a less serious answer, Josh calls it the penalty box.
Yes.
And there are songs that either we have led so much that
Yep.
we are just
I
kind
got one
of
too. Yeah.
we're a little exhausted from it, or maybe it's just been requested often and we've just had to bring it back around. So Josh calls it the penalty box. And sometimes songs kind of get put over into
Yeah,
there.
because they're not dead. You just
Yeah.
need to put them in a timeout for
We
a
can
second.
still use
Yeah.
them. We come back to them, but
The
things
songs you think you seem like you're doing every week.
exactly that are theologically sound,
Great song.
great songs, but maybe we've done them for 8 weeks in a row. And
Overplayed, maybe a little bit.
we want to give Glorious Day a break and maybe come back to it.
That one's probably still in my penalty box.
Yeah.
I got one other less serious one. I think for me, especially for like church congregations, now like we do a lot of like youth event type of like worship leading, which doesn't necessarily fall into this camp, but for mixed generation church groups, I typically avoid songs that have like a lot of like oohs and ahs and woes and yes and laws, because there's a bunch of them out there where like there's a hook that we want people to sing, but our 60-year-old congregants don't really want to sing la 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 la. Yeah, so that's another thing I like just personally I tend to avoid.
With that goes very repetitive lyrics, two
Yeah.
lines over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That kind of repetitiveness there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Switching gears here, how do you choose which key to play each song in? What are your thoughts in that? Whoever wants to take it first.
I'm a vocalist, so I typically think vocally minded first. So for me, it's usually this sweet spot, a range that most people can sing in.
Yeah.
You're still gonna have your outliers. You're gonna have your ladies who sing all the way up in the rafters and your gentlemen who are rolling real low, but having a mid-range. So for me, that's usually, if we're talking exact, it's A below middle C all the way up to D in the staff. Just this nice middle range for everyone, and that I can kind of decide from, because there are some songs these days that go way outside of that range, and so
Yeah.
you kind of
On both ends.
on both ends. So you kind of just have to make it work when you need to, but for the most part, falling in that area,
Yeah.
so that you do give people more of a chance to be able to sing if they would
Yeah,
like to.
because if it's too high or if it's too low,
Yeah.
people aren't going to sing.
Yeah.
And just taking that extra step as a worship leader and typing into song select and not just going straight to the chord chart, but going to the lead sheet and seeing where the melody
Yeah.
falls
Yeah.
is very, very important, and surfing through keys there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the tricky thing is there is no perfect range.
Yeah, that's
because men's voices and women's voices are just different, and that's one of the more challenging things of being a worship leader is choosing keys for songs. Because if you pick a song, put a song in a key that is great for a male tenor voice, it is terrible for sopranos, right? It's way too high. And the inverse is true. So there is no right answer for choosing keys. We can just give you kind of a framework. And I think Rachel had a good point. I think I'll look at the lead sheet and I look for the top melody line and not necessarily at the worship leader stuff, because sometimes you can get away with some worship leader type moments that aren't necessarily melody.
Yeah.
But if you want the melody to stay, I use E flat as my top range, because I also think that we don't want to put people in a comfort zone with the key. We want I like getting my people to stretch a little bit higher, because I don't know if it's just a mindset, but you're kind of sitting up higher, straighter, you're kind of reaching a little more, and to me, I think maybe that makes me engage a little more. But picking the right key is crucial, so that you're not alienating anyone, and it's something you got to take seriously. And for me also, I take into consideration transitions when I'm picking keys, because transitions can make or break a very powerful moment. So I'll choose keys that are relative to the song that comes before it or after it.
Yeah, and sometimes you're playing in the same keys.
Yeah.
You're playing in the same key, or you're doing a lot of the songs in the same key. And then with that, you have to listen to the congregation, see if they are singing back.
Yeah.
So if it's in a comfortable range and they are participating, then that's probably a go-to key for your congregation, to where they are participating. And if they're not singing, that's a point where you have to ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Like, is the song out of their
Yeah.
range? Is the song questioning? Right? We going back to songs, why we don't choose them. Are they questioning the lyrics? Why are they not participating? Things all of that nature. And then you touched on a point. Do you think about how songs flow together with that? Like you talked about specific keys. Do you think of like messages between what the songs are saying between two different songs?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I like to consider flow. Like what am I trying to say in choosing these songs? We take into consideration theme, because typically you want your songs to be in some sort of thematic umbrella with what the sermon is doing, so everything hammers home this one central idea. But that doesn't mean that we can't help our songs have a shape to them, to what they're actually saying. So I'm choosing songs based on flow, but also how am I getting from one song to the next? Because like one of our chief responsibilities as worship leaders is to mitigate distractions. We want to eliminate as many distractions as we can, and awkward transitions are one of those times that it can take a really powerful moment and inject awkwardness into it, and that's not what you want.
Yeah. Going over you, Rachel, as a vocalist, in between songs, you're the ones holding the microphone. You're the ones speaking to the congregation. What do you say in between there? I know that can always be a scary thing, but what are things that you say during the transition while the band's changing keys, in a transition within that, or going into the intro of the next song?
I think situations are different, but if I'm working with like some of my younger groups or my beginning groups, we typically start out pretty cookie cutter. You're either going to maybe pull a scripture verse or a passage that goes with the theme of the next song, or maybe some lyrics from the next song, or just something that is encouraging your congregation to continue in this time of worship and moving into what follows. It's definitely something that takes practice. When I was 14 years old, if I was told that I had to transition a song, it was deer in headlights.
Oh, it's still me.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just practicing. I have my younger kids, I have them write out what they would like to say and kind of give them a script, so that if they do find themselves in the moment, they have something that they can go back to. But now I've been doing it for a while, so it's spending time with the Lord beforehand, going over the songs, going over just what we are singing over the congregation and over ourselves, and really listening and discerning what He wants me to share with the congregation. And in spending time with Him, I usually can be in the right mind to hear from Him and to hopefully say what He would like for me to say. There are some slip-ups or some twisting of words every now and then, but that's the goal.
Let me just throw something in there as well. In all situations with transitions, less is more. And sometimes, and for me, I know myself, I shoot for saying as little as possible, or sometimes even like saying nothing in between songs. So like for me, like my gold standard set is like I have to say something at the beginning of the worship set. Like I'll get them on their feet. I'll bridge the transition between the program element that comes before us into what we're doing, so there's a connection. But then in my planning, I'm picking keys so that I don't have to say anything in between songs. That one song just flows right into the next. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way, especially if you're doing a new song, because you'll want to introduce that new song. But in all situations, less is more, because I get into the trap of I don't always know how I'm getting out of what I'm saying. Even like right now, I don't know how I'm closing this thought. So you just keep talking and talking, and it's this word vomit kind of thing, right? So if I don't have to say something, it's probably better. And it's not to say that you shouldn't strive for leading your congregation through worship, because that is our job as worship leaders. But I don't always think you have to say something between songs. Just
Yeah.
a personal thing.
I think if you find that you are talking more or just as much as you are singing,
Yeah.
the balance is probably
Yeah.
the scales are probably off a little bit.
We'll get to this, but preparation is
Yep.
key. Like when you start your set, you need to know how you're transitioning from one thing to the next. If there's an awkward dead air time, it's because something went wrong.
Yeah.
Either you didn't prepare enough to cover that transition, or there was some catastrophe.
In the
maybe the power went out or something. Those things happen. So you do have to think on your feet.
Yeah.
But in general, you need to have planned out how you're going to transition from thing to thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What other quick tips do you have to give beginner praise teams or beginner worship leaders to focus on with choosing songs?
There's two things, and Rachel touched on one of these earlier for me. Is there's one of my favorite worship leaders is Paul Balash. He's an old school great worship leader, and he does this series on teaching like how to be a better worship leader, and he uses this phrase "worship before the Lord," and I think as worship leaders, you cannot let the worship leading times that you do be your times of worship, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have personal, intentional, devotional worship time with just you and the Lord before you go and lead your congregation. So for me, that's the first thing. Worship before the Lord on your own, right? Get into that frame of mind, and if you can do it on like the morning that you're about to sing. That puts you in the best frame of mind to come before the Lord and to come before your congregation to encourage people to experience Jesus. So worship before the Lord. The second thing for me is personal practice is key. Yep. The more you practice on your own, the more comfortable you are with the chord changes and how you're transitioning from song to song, even memorizing the lyrics. But the more you practice ahead of time, the less mental bandwidth you have to devote to the physics of leading worship, and the more bandwidth you have for hearing what the Spirit is telling you in that moment and how He wants you to lead this congregation in worship. What you got, Rachel?
Well, you stole all the good points, Josh. I think in just some of the practicality of things, making sure that you're listening to things, your songs, if you're the worship leader, that you are sending those out so that your people can listen to those and can become familiar with them again, because there's probably going to be time between rehearsal and when you're actually leading. There may not be. I've been in churches where we rehearsed the morning of, and then 30 minutes later we're on for service. But then if you're a part of the team, then making sure that you're listening to those, really keeping those in your ear, because it's sort of the same as what Josh is saying about if you are saving that until the moment of, if you are just hoping and praying that it's going to come out for you in the moment when you need it, just like that spiritual preparation and really spending time with the Lord, you need to do that as well before it comes time for the mics to turn on.
Yeah, and just one other thing for beginning worship leaders and worship players. If I don't really know how to people in a worship band. YouTube is great for finding tutorials on how to play your part on a particular song.
Yep.
I did that so much when I was well, this shows my age, but when YouTube came out and I was learning how to play like some of the harder songs, you can go on YouTube and you can look up Glorious Day electric guitar, and there are tutorials on how they'll teach you how to play that particular part. And that frees you, again, it frees you up in worship to not have to think about what it is that you're playing because you've already done the work ahead of time. Yeah.
Last question here. What's your favorite resource for choosing worship songs?
It's a subscription site, but I think most churches now use it. But Song Select, I love Song Select for choosing songs. It has a great theme section. Like it'll have hundreds of themes that you can choose from. So particularly if you're trying to choose songs based on your sermon theme, that's a great place to go.
Rachel?
Yeah. I'm all about free.
Yep.
So worshiptogether.com
For free.
has same thing kind of that Josh mentioned. It has a theme section where it has a search bar. You can ask theme. It even goes down to tempo as well, if maybe you're looking at like a prayer time that you're looking for something. But they also have where people have already done the work for you and put together lists of songs that fall under different categories. So even all the way down to Easter
Yeah.
or Good Friday, something like that. Already a list of songs in place that you can pull from there.
Yeah.
And it makes your life a little bit easier.
I love that one.
Well, thank you, Josh and Rachel, for joining me in this first episode, choosing songs for small and beginner praise teams. And for you guys, thank you for tuning in. And when choosing songs, remember to take your congregation into consideration, take your band's level into consideration, and then think about and prepare the transitions between songs. Thank you for listening to this episode of Worship Leading for Small Churches. If you liked this episode, we would appreciate if you'd like and share this with others. Tune in next Wednesday at 10 a.m. where we continue our discussion. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening, and God bless.